Commander Landry was about to attack the creature. And now, based on your lack of threat response, I'm ready to submit that the creature's primary drive is not aggressive. It's not a predator.
You have not changed an iota, Burnham. Your contrite words were insincere.
They were necessary.
I was wrong to question your place on the crew. You will fit in perfectly with Captain Lorca.
Klingons, tardigrades, mushrooms, spinning starships. Let's take a look at episode 4 from Discovery's first season. The Butcher's Knife Cares Not for the Lamb's Cry. Man, that's a long title. Spoiler warning. You have 5 seconds to change course to avoid spoilers. So, when we last left off, Michael Burnham wasn't staying long enough to make friends.
I don't stay anywhere long enough to make friends.
Oh, sorry. Wrong Starfleet outcast.
I'm not staying long enough to make friends.
Except it looks like she will be staying, after all, through an offer from Captain Lorca. And maybe she will make some friends.
I can't help them. I can help you.
Michael Burnham is embracing this new opportunity to serve aboard Discovery, and it will be a challenge for her, both in terms of interacting with those around her and dealing with the pressures of the war, and in terms of Burnham figuring out her inner space as well. As you might have noted in the pilot episode, Burnham accepts the philosophies of the Vulcan people almost without question. Her faith in Vulcan logic still drives her decisions 6 months after the battle at the binary stars, as it probably did her entire life. At which point she starts to reconcile with her more human instincts is anyone's guess. But there are subtle hints throughout the show so far that Michael Burnham's humanity and her upbringing in Vulcan logic will come into conflict eventually. And there's another element driving her decisions too. Michael burns with an intense curiosity. She is a natural explorer. On several occasions so far, we've seen her take risks in service of that intense curiosity. Her spacewalk to the unknown object, her breaking into the lab on Discovery, and her opening of the tardigrade cage to test a theory about the aliens' dietary habits illustrate that Michael Burnham can be quite a risk taker when it comes to curiosity. Is this something she needs to learn to control? Hard to say. Although, given her current station, it will surely get her into trouble down the line. To make things more complex, Burnham doesn't seem to be the type to back down when she thinks she's right.
I know you love being right, but I suspect that you hate being wrong even more. So let me stop you going down a path you'll regret.
Another quality she shares with other Starfleet outcasts. The main thrust of this episode regards the investigation of the tardigrade, or acting Ensign Waterbear. The characters and we as an audience assume the worst about this creature when we first meet it.
Is he shushing you?
And with good reason. But there is more than meets the eye here, as Burnham discovers. This is a typical Star Trek situation that, like many things on Discovery, we've kind of seen before. In the original series episode Devil in the Dark, we meet a creature that is ravaging a mining colony on Janus 6. Spock figures out that the creature, called a Horta,
it calls itself a Horta,
is just defending itself.
A Horta.
Everyone readjusts their attitude toward the alien creature after that. Clearly, this episode of Discovery is painting a very similar picture for us. We've misjudged the water bear, but there is an added moral dilemma on top of that misjudgment. It seems that the USS Glenn was using the tardigrade as part of its research into this new spore drive technology. Ensign Waterbear is a kind of navigator, and it seems he doesn't like it. Again, we've been in this territory before. In the Next Generation episode, Quality of Life, we meet the exocomps, ostensibly smart tools that can solve technical problems in places and under circumstances too dangerous for any biological life form. But we discover that they are actually intelligent.
I have reason to believe the exocomps are alive.
Which presents a classic moral dilemma. Characters figure out that it's unethical to force a sentient being to do a task without its consent. In the Voyager episodes, Equinox Parts 1 and 2, we fall on the other side of that dilemma. We discover that a Federation starship, the USS Equinox, has murdered a nucleogenic life form and used the remains as a fuel source in order to make their way back home from the Delta Quadrant to Federation space, thousands of light years distant.
And that means killing another life form, and then another. How many lives would it take to get you back to the Alpha Quadrant?
The crew did this out of desperation, but it was a clear violation of Starfleet principles, and perhaps a violation of the crew's basic humanity. We as an audience are being set up to watch a similar moral dilemma play out on Discovery. We get a foreshadowing of this problem in conversation between Burnham and Commander Landry. Landry, like Lorca, feels that the water bear should be studied and weaponized.
We need to find something Lorca can use on this thing. Poison sacs, pain inducers, rage glands.
Whereas Burnham, in classic Starfleet fashion, feels that they don't know enough to make any determinations, and that the creature's motivations should be studied first.
We judge the creature by its appearance, and by one single incident from its past. Nothing in its biology suggests it would attack.
Burnham ends up being right, and consequently, she later discovers that Ensign Waterbear is a reluctant navigator, and Commander Landry ends up being dead.
Computer seal containment pen!
I will remember you.
Rest assured that this conversation is not over. Captain Lorca will certainly insist that they use the tardigrade to end the war, and Burnham will, predictably, stick up for the creature. Maybe this will provide the scaffolding upon which Burnham will have her Vulcan logic tested. Something to watch out for. As mentioned previously, we are still seeing the threads of a theme regarding Starfleet's true purpose in a time of war. Stamets and Lorca are still butting heads over the use of Stamets' mycological research. In this conversation, we discover that Lorca is willing to play dirty.
Computer, play the audio transmissions from Corban 2.
This is my last message. Another round of bombs has struck. Zafad is dead.
His weaponization of empathy forces Stamets' hand on using the spore drive before Stamets fully understands how it works. Weaponized empathy may not be quite the term to describe this action, but like with most things in Discovery, this is ground that Star Trek has tread before.
Isolating frequency.
Data, where are you? Why won't you answer? Are you angry with me? Please, I'm so afraid.
Wait. Your whisper from the dark has now become a plea.
In this, we get a clear view of Captain Lorca's command style, which is both effective and imperious. He is a warrior more than he is an explorer.
I study war, and this is where I hone my craft. I try to learn from the best.
We also get to see the Lorca maneuver, which is cool. On the Klingon side, we get Vok, the albino Klingon torchbearer, learning to temper down his expectations of purity. He finds himself powerless to save his ship, which has been sitting adrift at the binary stars for the entire time since the battle with Starfleet. He only just relents in scavenging technology from the derelict USS Sinjo when Cole interjects himself and steals what remains of Takuvma's ship and crew. L'Rell manages to save Vok's life amidst Cole's takeover, but it means that Vok will have to give up everything. We are left in the dark on what everything means in this context, but if I were a writer with the show, I would take this opportunity to begin connecting the continuity dots to the augmented Klingons we know from the original series and Enterprise. Just a suggestion. This episode also contains the most gentle Klingon foreplay we've yet seen. Shall we uncouple? Oh yeah. So, in summary, we are still setting up characters and killing them, and we can see some battle lines being drawn across the landscape of the show. Lorca certainly represents the war camp. Undoubtedly, Stamets represents the science camp, and Burnham is trying to navigate the two camps as best she can. Some notable connections to canon. Cole is of the House of Kor. You know Kor, right? Elitist attitudes are apparently a hallmark of that house, as Cole is very dismissive of Vok based on his birthright and albino appearance. Kor himself later denied General Martok's application to be an officer in the Klingon Defense Force because of Martok's low birth status. Nice little callback there. Also, Corvan 2 is where our threatened dilithium mining operation is located. It's also home to rainforests that contain this creature. Nice. And I suppose Elon Musk is canon now? Interesting. Also, who packaged up this telescope? And when? Really? I'll let you think on that. And thank you for watching. If you have some thoughts or comments on this episode or on the show in general, please feel free to discuss in the subspace below. Also, if you like this and other Trexpertise videos, then consider supporting the channel over on Patreon. You can find the link to our Patreon page in the subspace below. We'll see you next week. In the meantime, may we suggest this excellent honest trailer for The Next Generation by the YouTube channel Screen Junkies. Enjoy.